Supply is the amount of a good or service that people or businesses or producers are willing to provide at a given price. Supply schedule, a table that shows the quantity of goods that will be supplied at each price. Supply curve, a curve showing the relationship between price and the quantity that producers are willing to sell during a particular time period. Looking at the supply schedule, do you notice any unique differences between a supply schedule from a demand schedule? Supply curve is the graphical representation of supply. The information it contains describes the quantity of a good that a seller is willing to sell at different prices. Note, both the supply curve and the supply schedule should describe the same information. The law of supply states that the higher the price, the larger the quantity supplied. There is a direct relationship between price and supply, because producers will try and make as much profit as possible, so they will try and sell as many products as possible given the high price. A change in quantity supplied is a change in quantity resulting from a change in the price of the good. A change in quantity supplied causes movement along the supply curve. The law of supply states that there is a tendency for the quantity supplied of a good in the market to increase as its price rises. For a supply curve to be consistent with the law of supply, the supply curve must be upward sloping. Supply with all other things equal. There are 5 variables that also affect the quantity supplied of a good and are held constant when analyzing the law of supply. What would cause the supply curve to shift left, a decrease, or shift right, increase even though the price remains the same? The 5 variables are 1. Technology. 2. The price of goods used as an input in production. 3. Number of firms in the market. 4. Sellers' expectations of future prices. And 5. Government taxes, subsidies, and regulations. Technology. The change in the amount that a firm can produce with the given amount of inputs can be considered a change in technology. Improvements in technology will encourage the firm to produce more at the same price. For example, the introduction of high-yielding varieties of corn will allow corn farmers to produce more corn, given the same amount of land, water, fertilizer, and machinery. The price of goods used in production. More expensive inputs, such as raw materials, land, capital, increases the cost of production of goods and services, and may force the firm to sell less at a given price. For example, when oil and gasoline prices increase, some airlines choose to cut back on the number of flights on certain routes. The number of firms in the market. If more firms in the market increase, supply increases, as more goods or services will be available for sale at each price. Sellers' expectations of future prices. If a firm expects the price of the good they are selling will increase in the future, they will sell less today and sell more in the future when prices are higher. Similarly, if a firm expects the price of the good they are selling will decrease in the future, they will sell more today. For example, stockholders of Google will hold off on selling their stocks if they expect the prices of the stock will rise in the future. On the other hand, stockholders of Google will sell more stocks if they expect the prices of the stock will drop in the future. Government taxes, subsidies, and regulations. Increases in taxes, or payments by firms to the government, or decreases in subsidies, which are payment by the government to firms, can reduce the quantity that firms are willing to sell at a given price. Decreases in taxes or increases in the subsidies can increase the quantity that firms are willing to sell at a given price. For example, community colleges decreased the number of classes offered in 2002 when the state of California reduced the subsidies to the community college system. Regulations are government policies or rules that control the firm's behavior. These regulations can affect the firm's cost of production and thereby affect supply. For example, government pollution regulation forces bus companies to seek alternative fuel sources, such as natural gas, that may raise costs and decrease supply. A shift versus movement of the supply curve. Movement along the supply curve is a change in the quantity supplied of a good brought along by a change in its price. An increase in price can be seen in a diagram as a movement from A to B in the same supply curve. A decrease in the price is depicted as a movement from point B to A. A shift or an increase in supply can be brought about by 5 possible causes. 1. Better technology. 2. Less expensive inputs. 3. More firms entering the market. 4. A lower expected price in the future. Or 5. More subsidies or less taxes. An increase in supply is illustrated as a shift in the supply curve to the right. A decrease in supply is illustrated the shift to the left. Possible causes for a decrease in supply are a deteriorating technology, more expensive inputs are used in production, fewer firms produce the product, a higher expected price in the future, and last, less subsidies or more taxes. A decrease in supply is illustrated as a shift in the supply curve to the left.